Hey there, Goblin Horde. I am the Goblin King, and I have to issue an apology for yesterday's video, and again, for today's old movie review. I don't know what it was about yesterday, but for whatever reason, I simply could not focus on the video. I sat in front of my computer, literally, for hours, trying to write, and I just couldn't. I honestly had almost an entire page written too, but I just couldn't get my mind or enthusiasm into the damned thing. I really don't know what the hell's up with me recently. I mean, this is hardly an isolated incident. I've been having issues focusing for at least the past 2 weeks. Maybe it's the added stress of the move. I don't know. Yesterday was definitely a bad one, though, for sure. However, I'm going to endeavor to try my best not to let something like that happen again. On that, you have my guarantee. That being said, just as a heads up, I'm probably going to be taking another week off here in a month, since my grandfather's funeral is in the first week of May. I say probably because I have to cross several states in order to get to it, and I'm not sure I'm going to be able to afford to go. It's really unfortunate, but, you know. Anyway, I figured I'd mention it now so that you all know what's going on later. That being said, well then, now that I'm done with all the Debbie Downer shit, let's get into something relatively lighthearted, shall we? Alright, so this wonderful little tidbit of news just dropped today, and the moment I saw it, I just had to laugh. We hopefully all remember the video I did last week on that train wreck known as Ezra Miller. The one where I talked about how Miller had been arrested in Hilo, Hawaii for basically assaulting a couple of people at a karaoke bar over there. Now, he wasn't actually arrested for assault, mind you. He was actually arrested on a couple of far more minor charges and then let go on a measly ass $500 bail. Then, within hours of that mess, the dipshit had actually broke into the bedroom of the couple who owned the bed and breakfast or whatever the fuck, where he was staying and threatened them with death, telling the husband that he was going to bury him and his slut wife. Ezra Miller is obviously a very charming person and not at all completely off his fucking rocker. So, I guess let's get into this article from the piece of shit rag the Rolling Stone, who completely feed into Miller's obvious psychosis, by the way. Alright, according to this article from a rag that I wouldn't use to clean my dirty ass, on March 30th, which is the day that the news of Miller and that couple dropped, the executives over at Warner NBC held some sort of an emergency meeting to discuss Miller's future with the company. According to their unnamed source, the consensus among the executives at this meeting was to put any future projects or appearances involving Miller on pause for the time being. Which is way more than they did for Amber Heard, despite that rancid beef curtain being just as controversial and way more unpopular than Ezra crazy-ass Miller. This, of course, is definitely not the first controversy that Miller's been involved in. We all know about the incident in Iceland. I actually got a bit into that in my last video too, where he apparently choked a woman, taking her down to the ground with his hand still on her throat. That time, Warner did absolutely nothing, of course. Rolling Stone also reported on another unnamed insider, stating that Miller even had, quote, frequent meltdowns during the production stage of the upcoming Flash movie. This person states that, while none of the incidents involved any sort of yelling or violence, they described Miller as, quote, losing it. This, Warner also did nothing about, probably because it didn't ever make it into the public sphere the way this most recent incident has. My personal theory here is that Warner is finally actually going through the motions because they don't want anything jeopardizing their upcoming merger with Discovery, which itself is worth about $43 billion. Warner's parent company, AT&T, is currently carrying roughly $58 billion in debt, and the Warner Studios are a big portion of that debt. This merger would actually go a long way toward covering a giant portion of that debt, and the executives over at the studios are probably scrambling to shove anything that might hamper that merger under the proverbial rug. As far as I know, it's not too late for Discovery to pull out of the deal, and I'd imagine that something like your headline actor for a major tentpole film being arrested for being a fucking psycho could probably cause Discovery to suddenly develop doubts about merging with the company. Those are just my thoughts, though. This story then goes on to talk about that video that Miller uploaded to Instagram, where he threatens what he called KKK over there in North Carolina. I've heard differing things about this whole incident. Miller doesn't provide any context either within his video or the post itself. I've heard he was just threatening some regular-ass people. I have no clue, but the video and the post have since been deleted. The Rolling Stone then goes on to infer that some of the evidence for Miller's obviously being off his rocker is that he's a proponent of gun ownership. The actor stated in an interview with that other shitrag, The Hollywood Reporter, that, quote, people need to protect themselves, and that he's got no issue with people owning semi-automatic weapons. Now, they don't come right out and say it, but otherwise, why include that in a story talking about how the actor's unhinged? This is why Rolling Stone is a rag that's so shitty, no clear-thinking person would even use it to wipe their own ass. They also throw a couple of comparisons to Will Smith in here. I don't know what the fuck that's about, though they don't actually defend him in this story. They pretty much state that the only reason any of his projects got put on hold is because he basically priced himself out of a job. Though there were some people making those comparisons on Twitter, apparently. Doing the whole white privilege thing. Saying that because 15 bajillion outlets covered the Will Smith thing and only a bare handful covered the Ezra Miller thing, that was an example of white privilege. Which is completely fucking stupid because if you take more than 5 seconds to consider how those two situations are different, you'll come to the correct reason why it turned out like that. However, for the short bus passengers who might be watching, I'll spell it out for you. Will Smith slapped a man on live television in front of millions of people. Ezra Miller had a crazy episode in front of maybe a dozen people at a bar in Hawaii. Which one logically gets more press coverage? The literal assault on live television in front of millions of viewers, or the harassment charge in front of, probably, a dozen people in a karaoke bar in small-town Hawaii? Also, there were literally no official consequences for what Will Smith did. He still got to win his award, and got a standing ovation from the dipshits of Hollywood, and, last I heard, the fucko still has his Oscar. None of this has anything to do with race. It's all rich people privilege. If, after I've broken this down for you, you still think it's white privilege, well then there's no helping you. You're a fucking moron. Oh, and morons on Twitter. Please, gods, tell me how the actual fuck a black man making a G.I. Jane joke about a bald-headed woman is racist? Please tell me. Oh, and ableist? How the actual fuck is that narcissistic thunder cunt disabled? If she's disabled, then every man in the world with male pattern baldness is fucking disabled, you fucking window lickers. Anyway, that's all I have for you on this one, Goblins. As always, these are my opinions, nothing more. Let me know your thoughts in that handy section down below. While you're down there, Ezra Miller's marbles are still lost. Maybe you can find them. Since there's no movie review again this week, I'll see you all tomorrow for another pop culture lobotomy. Thanks for watching this long. I'll see you then. Lates.